PTF back with you on the In the Money Media YouTube channel. This one is by request and not from someone in the audience, but by one of the guests when we were talking about setting up our video that you can find elsewhere on this channel, talking about the key 3-year-old prep action as part of this first Saturday. Randy Moss said to me, we got to make sure to talk about the Saudi day as well, the big Saudi Cup race last weekend. Randy, why'd you want to talk about this race?
Best race that I've seen in a long time. Unbelievable race. And I've weighed in on X, formerly known as Twitter, about what my thoughts on the Saudi Cup are. My buddy here has never had a chance publicly to weigh in, so that's why I wanted to give him the shot.
And I do have an X account, but you don't want me on it because but here it goes. The best horse did not win. As great a horse as Romantic Warrior is, and Forever Young, equally as good. Romantic Warrior was the best horse in the race. He just got a very poor ride. He was the question mark with Romantic Warrior being a turf horse. This was his first time on a dirt track. How he would handle the kickback, how he would get a hold of the footing. Would he have the same finish and turn of foot over dirt that he did over grass? Well, this horse took everything perfectly, like a champion, like a horse that has already made $22 million in his career. He cruised up in behind the leaders halfway down the backside. He was 5th or 6th. He was no more than 5 or 6, 7 lengths off the lead at any point in time down the backstretch. When he got to the turn, he was cruising up and even closer. I said, this horse is going to wait till he turns for home. The rider's going to wheel him out, McDonald, and he's just going to blow by everybody. Well, he didn't wait that long. Randy said it was at the half-mile pole. It was somewhere between the 3.5 furlong and the 4 furlong pole. It's a little confusing because it's a 1.25 mile track and it was a one-turn 1.8 mile race. But geez, when you're sitting back there with an armful of horse and you know that you have the horses in front of you beaten and there's nobody pressuring you from behind to do anything, why would you wheel out 5 wide and make a 3.5 at least furlong move with this horse? And chance of him running out of steam late. But that's exactly what happened. McDonald wheeled him out, went 5 wide, blew by the field, including Forever Young, opened up 2 or 3 length lead, went back to the rail, and of course he got tired late, and Forever Young, being the champion that he is, came and got him on the wire. To me, it was an unforgivable sin by this rider McDonald to move that early, to go that wide. Now, if there was a hole on the rail and he moved early, go for it, buddy. But to go that wide and take the worst of it, to move that early and then get caught on the wire, cardinal sin. But it was only 20 million, Randy.
That's all.
As strong as Jerry's words were there, your specific words on Twitter, Randy, were even stronger than that. If you care to
well, I said it was the worst ride of 2025. You might as well go ahead and give him the trophy right now. Because there's not going to be, any worse ride of the year. And some of these morons on X, you didn't watch the 5th race at Charlestown yesterday or whatever, So look, there are obviously a lot of, just like being a plumber, there are great plumbers and there are bad plumbers. There are great jockeys. And I'm sure James McDonald is a superstar jockey. I'm sure
world class,
right? He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. He's going to make mistakes, just like all riders have. But yes, there have been worse rides than what James McDonald gave, and there will be worse rides. But the magnitude of the richest race in the world has a lot to do with what I meant about being the worst ride of 2025.
I will play devil's advocate, and I'm not going to disagree with you that if he had the ride to do over again, he would do it differently. That is 10 out of 10 stuff. But I did give him some grace because of how unusual the circumstance was of having this only turf horse who they were clearly very scared about kickback for, competing on the dirt for the first time on this stage. And I felt like McDonald felt what he had under him, thought in that moment that he could get away with it, and just decided, you know what, I am on a rocket ship. I'm going to let it fly. And it took an absolute world-class ride from a very special horse to make him look bad. One thing, though, that I do agree with you about also that he would do differently again is going down to the inside, like I don't think Forever Young was gonna be able to re-rally there on the inside. But then when he went down to the rail and Forever Young was able to get the easier finish to eventually get him on the wire, that I think he'd want to do over again too. But I don't know. I was just much more. It was bad. It didn't work out, but I feel like it was not the worst decision. It just ended up in a terrible outcome, and it wasn't the best decision either. But I felt like it was justifiable in the moment. Tell me I'm wrong.
Pete, I was sitting there watching the race in real time. And as he's moving out, I'm saying, you got to be kidding me. Don't do this. Do not do this. Maybe you're just going to move a little bit and then sit and wait. And sure enough, I said, are you really doing this? Jesus, you can't do this now. And he did it. And that was real time when it was happening. I wasn't redboarding.
He was quoted as saying, James McDonald, who again has twice been voted the Longines best jockey in the world. Okay, I'm sure he's unbelievable.
He's no joke.
He was quoted as saying that as he was sitting right there behind Forever Young in the catbird seat, that the horse was handling the kickback beautifully. Mm-hmm. He had also been quoted as saying that every time he sits on Romantic Warrior, he feels like Romantic Warrior is unbeatable. Well, I think that's what he was thinking, that he was unbeatable. Here's a horse who had never run on dirt before. Dirt is obviously a more tiring surface than grass. Okay, so he had never run on a racetrack that tiring before in his career, in his 22 race career. And I put it on the timer. He was wheeled out into the 5-path with 47 seconds remaining in the race. So that's essentially the half-mile pole. And he asked his horse to make a half-mile run on a tiring surface that he'd never been on before, more tiring, 5 wide, against one of the best dirt horses in the world.
Pete, sometimes there's extenuating circumstances, which I try and take in consideration because there's things that people don't realize that happen out there, and there's justification for our decisions. One of them would be, all right, there's a horse that's back there that I know he's a dead closer to, and maybe I want to get the jump on him. Not the case. The horse to beat was directly in front of him, Forever Young.
Right.
There's also the situation, as I mentioned earlier, if a hole opens and you want to take advantage of it because it's such an advantage to save ground and move through a hole quickly, that wasn't the case. He's going around. He's giving up ground, moving earlier than he should. And also, he knows this horse like a book. He's been riding him his entire career. He should know how much of a finish he has left. So how can he make the mistake of moving too soon and coming up empty late? And as Randy pointed out, the variables that you're worried about are kickback and how he's handling the ground. He was doing both of those perfectly. So why not just wait a little bit?
He screwed up.
Yeah,
it happens.
I've done it before.
Good points.
Yeah, I've done it before on Cigar. I think I rode a poor race in the Pacific Classic. There was a few more extenuating circumstances for me, but regardless, I think I rode a bad race in one of the biggest races of his career. So it as Randy said, it does happen, but it shouldn't have happened.
In our other video, we talked a bit about team tactics. I think those were in play that day against you at Del Mar, but that's the subject for another video, which we should do at some point, by the way. But yeah, you guys are making great points. You're bringing me around to your way of thinking, and it means a lot, not just to hear this from Randy bringing the horse player point of view, but from somebody who wore that mantle that McDonald wears in many parts of the world now as best jockey in the world, and to be able to see it through the goggles a little bit. You're making some very good points about how it would have worked out differently. It was still, it almost would have worked out. I mean, if Forever Young's not in the race, does anybody even talk about it?
Yeah, well, we would have been saying that he won despite the ride.
Well, if Darren Go wasn't in the race, Cigar would have won 17 in a row. I mean, so wasn't there a comment about somebody was surprised? The writer on Forever Young said he was surprised.
One of the analysts said they thought that Romantic Warrior caught Sakai, the jockey, on Forever Young by surprise.
And my comment was, of course he caught him by surprise. If you were on Forever Young, you wouldn't expect a horse behind you to make that early of a move either.
Right.
So yeah, he probably did catch him by surprise.
He probably felt pretty good about it.
incredible display that it was. I mean, it was a the kind of race, you know, you work in horse racing once in a while. People be surprised here. Once in a while, you have days where you can get a little bit down about this or that aspect of the job or the industry. That's one that I'm just going to bring up. If I ever have one of those days, I'm going to bring that race up and watch it and be like, oh, yeah, this is the best sport in the world. Forget how great it is and can be as a gambling game. It's also just a darn great sport as well when you look at the nature of that showdown and the specifics of that incredible stretch drive, regardless of the decisions made to get there. How does it look, though, Randy, from a speed figure point of view?
Well, we obviously at the Buyer Speed Figure team don't officially do speed figures for Meydan and certainly not King Abdul Aziz Racetrack. But we've seen enough top class American horses go over to both places to run that even though we don't publish them as official numbers, we've got a pretty darn good idea how fast they run. And the unofficial Buyer Speed Figure for the Saudi Cup comes back right at a 117.
Whoa!
So if you take into consideration that Romantic Warrior was probably a couple of lengths better than that, given the way he was ridden, then I think there are 2 points that should be made here. First of all, Jerry made a great point about this when we were sitting at Bar Taco last night. Romantic Warrior on dirt may not be as good at 1.25 miles as he is at 1.125 miles. Okay. Dirt's obviously a more tiring surface. 1.125 miles might be his best distance on dirt. One dirt race in his life, maybe the only time he ever runs on dirt again, however much longer he runs. At 1.125 miles or shorter, Romantic Warrior is the best dirt horse in the world. And Forever Young right now is the second best dirt horse in the world, pending what we see from Fierceness, what we see from Sierra Leone, other horses later this year. Right now, Forever Young has got to be number one on the list for the Breeders' Cup Classic at Del Mar later this year. He has taken a step forward.
Agreed.
That was the
I do wanna
follow-up
make
I
one
was
final point, Pete. Bar Taco is a restaurant. It does have a bar, but it's a restaurant. We were there eating. I wasn't there drinking.
I participate in the bar part of Bar Taco,
Yes.
but Jerry does not.
Cranberry and Club for Jerry. That makes sense. I
That's
think
it.
you've answered the question that was the obvious follow up, which is if a top form Fierceness or Sierra Leone had shown up in that race, where are they running? That figure suggests third.
They would have had their hands full.
Third.
Yeah.
They would have been third. Yeah.
How about while we're talking buyer figures for Saudi? Do you think this year's Saudi Derby might produce a relevant runner for this year's Kentucky Derby? How did that look on the clock? I didn't prep you for this, so you might not have it off the top of your head, or was it just not? It wasn't fast.
Like, high 80s, low, not like 91, something like no.
Gotcha. Given that Forever Young last year had topped the triple figure mark by your estimate, I think that gives us a pretty good idea. And that's what it looked like on form anyway. Guys, I will let you get back to work, but thank you so much for taking all this time to hang with me and the audience on the In the Money Media YouTube channel. Subscribe out there and drop us a comment. Let us know what you thought of James McDonald's ride in the Saudi Cup. Jerry, Randy, thank you so much. We'll be talking soon.